checking, everybody. Welcome to the Loewy Law Firm postgame show, where Kansas defeats Texas defeats BYU 35-6. Sorry, Jason. I thought for a second we might talk about something that was a little bit exciting.
I was not expecting that intro. That caught me by surprise. That was good. Yeah.
Guys, do us a solid. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, do all of those things. As I said, Texas beats BYU 35-6. Was it a great ball game? No, it was not. Were there some interesting talking points to go through in what was Malik Murphy's first start as a major college quarterback? Absolutely. Join into the Specs chat. Send us your super chat. Send us your comments. We'll talk about them. Anwar Richardson live at DKR will join us. Better join us soon, because that game does not merit a 2-hour post-game recap. We won't do it. For like the next hour plus, we're right here for you. Jason, for me, the two big takeaways from this game. Number one, the Longhorns are back in first place in the Big 12, and that doesn't seem insignificant. They're 7-1. You know, we're 2/3 of the way through the season. They're in a really good spot. Takeaway, especially after watching Oklahoma losing Lawrence today. Oklahoma not been able to pick up the pieces following that game in Dallas. Flirted with fire a week ago. Now they're right there with Texas. Chad and I talked about before the watch along was over with. You know, it'll be really curious to see what they do with Oklahoma and Texas in the polls. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama in the polls. Because if you put those three teams together, they, all have one loss. They've all played each other in some way. And I don't know, just something to think about. Point number two, Malik Murphy started today, and there were some mixed results, but at least you get through performance number one of what may be 2, 3, 4, depending on how long it takes for Quinn Ewers to get healthy. You got through it, no harm, no foul. You win by 4 touchdowns, and I think you learn a lot about where Malik Murphy is in this team as a byproduct, considering it's his team for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm reading the comments in the chat and just on Orangebloods on our message board, and everybody's, they're not beating K-State. They just won by 29 points. I mean, yeah, it wasn't necessarily a thing of beauty, but the defense played well. It's not all about offense, guys. I mean, the offense, his first start, he finishes 16 of 25, Malik Murphy, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a bad interception early in the game. He did have a fumble, which I'd say was half his fault. He didn't get much help on the blocking there. I don't know what people expected for his first game, but I thought Malik Murphy, I gave him a passing grade in my post-game write-up. I get it. Hey, I said if this game was in Manhattan, I said in my post-game write-up, I would probably be picking – no, I would be picking K-State. And I said I'd feel pretty comfortable with it. The fact that it's in Austin, gives me more confidence in Texas's chances. But, people are acting like this was a horrible performance by Texas, 35-6. It's a weird year, man. You mentioned it. You can't take any win for granted, especially when you have your backup quarterback making his first career start. Oklahoma will be the first ones to tell you that this week. Even last week, you mentioned they barely got by with a victory last week. It's interesting. I was looking at the standings. You've got, 5 teams now, I think, in the Big 12 that are one loss. It's going to be a crazy run to the finish. And you know what? It feels like next week, and I know we're here to talk about BYU. Obviously, we will. That almost feels like an elimination game a little bit, that K-State game next week. So, they got a good win today, Texas did. It wasn't filled with highlight real plays that we're going to think back on at the end of the year and say, oh, that was such a great performance against BYU, and Malik Murphy did this. And, it wasn't filled with a ton of highlight reel type plays and big memories. But, in a year of a lot of parity, Texas took care of business against a BYU team that's not very good, let's be honest. But 35-6, I think if you just said before, if you'd have said at 2:00 this afternoon, if you'd asked any Texas Longhorn fan, hey, Texas wins this game 35-6, they'd all be like, hell yeah, let's take it, bring it on, and let's enjoy our Saturday. So, I don't get kind of the negativity that I'm seeing coming out of this win. I thought it was a good win for Texas overall. I called it a workmanlike performance, but it was a workmanlike performance. Really, they dominated it, on the score.
El Presidente jumping in with a super chat for $20. Thank you, El Presidente. Another shit performance inside the red zone. That's fair. Yep. Take the effing points. We'll discuss this. Don't worry. I expect Murphy to put up the same kind of performance versus BYU that the TCU quarterback Hoover did. Murphy's wasn't even close. All right, well, let's start with the red zone. I mean, that's just continuing to be a problem. I mean, Sark's never going to take the points. That's not who he is. And, the thing is, it's not that they don't know who they want to be, Jason. They do. They want to be like the Washington Redskins in the 80s or the Cowboys in the 90s with Emmitt Smith. They want to get the ball like on the 8-yard line, and they want to be able to just blow teams off the ball, whether they're going to Jonathan Brooks or whether they're going with the Savion Red package. They want to be able to bully teams there. And while that offensive line oftentimes bullies teams between the 20s, they have not been a bully ball team in the red zone all year long. And I don't know how upset to get at Malik today or how much to point at the quarterback play. They were going into this game 113th in the country in red zone performance. Today was a continuation of kind of who they've been. They tried to line it up and smash mouth it in BYU's face. They couldn't. I mean, they don't really – they know who they want to be, but I don't think know who they are and what they can actually do. It's an interesting place to be for a team that's otherwise really good on offense going into the 9th week of the season.
So many thoughts. We could literally fill the next hour on red zone or more like inside the 10 talk. I mean, first off, El Presidente, couldn't agree more. Take the points. I get it, the new thing of analytics. It's usually like, okay, if you're inside the 2 or whatever, you go for it on 4th down. Bullshit. If you're up, you have a chance to go up by 3 scores. That's a huge difference, man. Sometimes you have to take those things into account. I mean, the difference between being up by 14 and 17 or 13 and 16 or whatever it was is huge. That's 3 scores. I guess it'd be 17 or 18. 3 scores makes that insurmountable. And I understand it. BYU did not pose much of a threat. I don't think Sark was worried if they didn't get it that BYU is going to march down 98 yards. But, at some point against a team like K-State or TCU or Iowa State, those decisions will bite Texas in the butt like they almost did last week. So a couple things about that. I wasn't crazy about the first one, but they ran it twice, and then they threw it, and then they threw the 4th down pass to JT Sanders, right, that he caught it and got tackled. Well, first off, take the points. Take the points. Take the points. Go up by 3 scores. The 4th down call to Sanders, I actually thought it was an okay call because it's an easy throw. You're counting on Whittington, your best blocker out there on the edge, to block his man. Hey, the BYU guy just made a good play, But, the other – I would have stuck with the Wildcat, and I would have just run it 4 times. But at some point, Savion Red, he has to hand that ball off at some point because otherwise it's just one-dimensional. You know what's going to happen. So just not a lot of creativity down there. I don't like the decisions by Sark it wasn't to me necessarily about the play calling as much today as it was about on one of those 2, just take those points, push that lead to 3 scores, and pretty much ice the game away. But, yeah, the red zone inability, man. I mean, it's a combination of things, but it's maddening, and it just keeps stacking on top of each other and becoming a bigger and bigger problem. So they've got to get that figured out because if they can't convert, inside the 5 into touchdowns against a team like Kansas State, they will lose next week if they don't do better in that
area. Thanks, El Presidente, for the super chat question. Malik Murphy's a work in progress. I mean, on top of the red zone stuff, I thought, quite frankly, it was a performance probably befitting of a guy making his first start in major college football. When the Prize Picks numbers came out at 238.5, I'm not going to win on Prize Picks today for a number of reasons Texas football related that I got wrong, including I thought Sark might kick a field goal.
Crazy thought. Yeah.
Really, in retrospect, I do feel stupid. Like, duh, he's not going to kick field goals. Look, I weirdly have more confidence in Malik Murphy going into next week than I kind of did today. He'll be playing a better Kansas State team. I don't know that he plays any better, but he needed to get this. He needed to get through this. He needed to throw some balls. He needed to get intercepted. He needed to recover from being intercepted. He needed to make a couple of big plays. Like, there was a little bit of good and bad for Malik Murphy, but you know what? I think having a little bit of both in this game will actually help him next week, as opposed to, honestly, if he'd come out. Look, you brought up Josh Hoover, El Presidente. Hoover came out and had the big monster game against BYU in the first game, and he had no issues. The next week he plays Kansas State, and he has issues and just was terrible. So, I think dealing with adversity is part of what Malik Murphy and this offense dealt with today. I don't know how good they're going to be next week against Kansas State on offense, but they will be better for having gone through this. This gives us 20 times more of an idea of where Malik Murphy is as a player right now than the spring game. We can stop talking about the spring game, and we can just start focusing on how he does in actual games. I thought there were things good and bad. Ultimately, Malik Murphy's not the first that I think of as this game kind of unfolded. There was some weirdness. The weirdness of this game, the pace. Jason, once again, and we'll get Tippett, I'll get to your super chat in just a second. Texas went 40. So a week ago, they're playing in Houston, and they go up 21-0. And then they went almost 40 minutes of actual game time without scoring a touchdown. This week, they go up 14-0, and they went almost 40 minutes of game time where they scored one time. So from 4:10 left in the first quarter all the way through 9:07 in the fourth quarter, they scored once on the touchdown pass from Murphy to Adonai Mitchell. But for a lot of that game, it just sat at 14-3, 21-3. And, at part of the time, at one point it's 21-6, and you're thinking to yourself, if Xavier Worthy doesn't have the punt return for a touchdown, it's 14-6 in the fourth quarter. So I think you're going to get a lot of negativity from the way the game played out today. I don't know that the final score is indicative of not the domination, because it is. BYU's not very good. Texas beat them like a bad team, but they weren't clinical enough on offense to take advantage of everything that was in front of them. And, we were in the fourth quarter, and if you take away the Xavier Worthy punt return touchdown, the offense has created 14 points, and that's not good enough. They'll need to be much, much better next week. But I don't know, that's a continuation from a week ago. That's the second week in a row. The exact same thing has happened, where they come out hot, they run the script, they get a lead, and then the middle of the game turns into yuck.
Well, they did have a 10-minute drive in the second quarter that only resulted in 3 points.
Yeah,
so that
it was a 16-play BYU drive. But look, this game's a true blowout if Texas is good in the red zone, even remotely good. The opportunity to blow Kansas State out was there. Texas just didn't execute well enough. Tippett says pretty underwhelming from Malik. He was decent. I'm happy with the win. It was nice to see the defense step up, get some kinks worked out. We'll be okay. I'm kind of with you, Tippett. Jason, I don't completely know that they're going to be okay next week. That's a scary football.
I disagree. I don't think this was underwhelming. I mean, 139.5, called 140 passer rating, his first career start. I mean, that one interception was a bad decision, and I don't know what he was looking at or not.
It's underwhelming if you think he's going to come out and be,
Yeah, I don't know what people expected. 275 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, statistically, this performance was a lot better than some of the games we saw from Quinn Ewers last year. And this was his first start. So, I mean, I don't know that I would call it underwhelming. Was it superlative? Absolutely not. It's not a game that's going to go down in the history books.
I think it's at least slightly underwhelming. I don't know that I'd go too far beyond that, but, he was okay. He was okay. Is it underwhelming for him to be okay? Maybe not. I don't know that it's fair for him to be okay in his first start and everybody to be supremely underwhelmed. I mean, again, maybe it has a lot more, Jason, to do with unrealistic expectations, which I feel like I've been trying to tone down all week long. The spring game didn't matter. Today mattered, and he was okay. He will be better for today. And with a young quarterback who next week will be making his second career start, I mean, it's kind of what you got to live with. This is the situation that Texas has been dealt. There's no way to run away from the fact that today was the first time against a 5-2 team. I mean, I think BYU sucks, but they're 5-2, now 5-3. They're a credible football team who beat Arkansas on the road, who gave Kansas the same Kansas team that beats Oklahoma today. BYU went to Lawrence and gave them a tussle with it. If not for a couple of defensive touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Kansas doesn't even win that game. So I don't know. I think everybody's got to relax a little bit, but I do understand where some people are coming from.
Hey, meanwhile,
Oscar says,
fighting Lincoln Riley's were down by 14 in the fourth quarter to Cal.
Oh my! I had just seen it was USC 29-28.
No, it's 29-43. Cal's up. A 3-4 Cal team. USC's maybe going to lose their third in a row. But go ahead with the super chat. Yeah.
I was going to say Lincoln Riley. OU fans can't even enjoy a good Lincoln Riley loss. They lost in Lawrence. Trust me. I said it last week. They enjoy Lincoln Riley losing more than they enjoy themselves winning. Tonight, the enjoyment level of watching Lincoln Riley lose really will be put to the test. Oscar says, people mad about this are bad fans. This is the best record-ranked UT team since I was a child. It is the first time they've been 7-1 in a season since 2009. We just blew out a conference opponent with a backup who's never started. Shut the heck up and support us. Oscar?
Hey, I'm usually the grumpy old man.
Oscar's a grumpy teenager.
No, I'm with Oscar, man. Enjoy this one, guys. They won by 29 points against a conference opponent. It's a great Saturday, man. So
this was classic Mac Brown. Beat the crap out of a team by 30 points, and everybody's upset at the style points. This is what in Mac Brown's heyday, this is what watching Texas, Oscar, used to be like. In the 2000s, Texas would pummel teams, and people would get complained because the pummeling wasn't pummeling enough. Although, again, Oscar, I'm with you. But I do understand those who were unimpressed with the overall performance today. Although I think it does ignore the defense was great. Special teams made a big play. What we're really talking about when we say the team wasn't great today was that the offense in the red zone didn't finish the deal and left this game closer than it needed to be for too long. Jay Lee says, Brian Irwin is right. We don't have a red zone issue. We have a short yardage goalie issue.
Goal line, I'm assuming he means. But I think that's accurate. I mean, whether it's 4th and 1 at the 40-yard line or 4th and 1 at the 2-yard line, I don't have a lot of confidence in this offense. So I think that's a good point by Jay and Brian Irwin, I guess.
It's interesting that you wouldn't think that this is an issue, Jason, because this team generally has been very good physically. You know what I mean? Like, we like this offensive line. Mm-hmm. We think that this has been a good offensive line who at times has really manhandled people. But they do get in these short yardage situations, and they don't hold up real well at the point of attack. I mean, that last drive, the one that ends, they try to use Savion Red. That didn't work. They try to, they're guessing. Sark's guessing.
4th and almost 2, and they run Brooks just kind of right up the gut, like where's some creativity in that? I don't know. I didn't like that play call. If you're talking about the one where they got stopped on 4th down, it was almost a full 2 yards, 4th and 2. And I mean, BYU's got its ears pinned back. They're playing the run there. So, I mean, I don't know. That may have been a good spot for a play action. See if you can get JT Sanders freed up in the end zone or something. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a lack of execution. They're not able to move the line for whatever reason in those situations. And some of the play calling leaves a lot to be desired as well.
I don't really understand this one, Kyle. Maybe if you can do a follow-up. Baxter has become the deep ball of last year.
I know what you mean. He's saying they couldn't hit on the deep ball last year. I don't know. I don't know. Is Baxter not being able to hit on his runs? I mean, Baxter today, 9 for 22 yards, a 2.4 yard average. You and I both thought he was in line for not a bit. I didn't expect him to go for 100, right? But I think you and I both thought he'd probably go 50 plus in this game. He just, like, I put in my post-game write-up, I'm like, hey, I'm not necessarily lobbying for Jaden Blue to get more touches. I get it. He's the 3rd back in the pecking order, maybe 4th if you factor in Keelan Robinson. But Jaden Blue produces, dude, every time he gets on that field. I get it. It's a lot of junk time yards. But I don't know. Baxter, he was pretty good last week. But the drop-off from Jonathan Brooks to C.J. Baxter is pretty staggering in terms of their production, average, and just – I mean, today, 9 for 22, 2.4 yards. So I kind of understand what Kyle's saying. He's, hey, the deep ball last year was a kind of a disaster. It just never got clicking. Well, C.J. he was pretty effective last week. But other than that, it's been a real struggle to get him clicking, get him going too.
I think Jaden Blue's been better than C.J. Baxter so far this season. So
he's a lot more explosive for sure, right?
And he's buried on the depth chart. I mean, it wasn't until the end of the game that Jaden Blue gets in. He, in a very short amount of time, did look better than C.J. Baxter. I don't know. I mean, Sark.
An extra, home run ability that, Jonathan Brooks has that. He's not Marshall Faulk. We all know that. But, Brooks is deceptive. They were saying on TV today, he's fast enough, right? He's faster than anybody chasing him. That's how Brooks is. But Jaden Blue gives him some real pop and some real explosiveness that we haven't seen out of C.J. Baxter. So I don't know, man. I would not have a problem if Jaden Blue started getting a few more touches just earlier in the game to see how he would respond.
Ryan says, OU lost. We now control our own destiny in the Big 12 race. Good to get a win in the first game for Malik. Hey, Ryan, I'm right there with you. By the way,
good for you, Ryan, for spelling Malik's name properly and correctly. So, yeah,
that's Ryan Crow from Texas Card House. By the way, shout out for one of our favorite OB sponsors. Love us some Texas Card House. I got to get out there and play. I'm itching for a little poker. I'm itching for I have something I want to say, but I can't. So I think Ryan probably knows what it is. I think we're caught up on super chats. Have I? I think I am caught up. Well, James said this earlier. I don't know if we talked about it. Guys, this offensive play calling is abysmal. Sark has to step it up to beat Kansas State. Okay, yeah.
Fair point. I can't add much to that. But.
No, I'm with you. I mean, Sark's got to not in the next few games. This is a real test. This beating Kansas State at home won't be easy next week. They do need the best from Sark ultimately to make that happen. And Caden had a super chat that said, "Can every Texas fan shut up about Arch now?" I don't know that today's performance from Malik. If Arch had guys who were like, Arch should be playing right now, nothing happened today that would make those people change their minds. I mean, yeah, Texas fans probably should shut up about Arch right now. He's irrelevant in the context of what they're trying to achieve this season. It's almost as if he's not even on the roster. But no, he's a 5-star quarterback. His last name is Manning. It's just it's what comes with landing a guy like that in recruiting. Trust me, when Chris Sims was a young player, there's just a clamoring for a guy like that that's just never quite going to go away. Here's a really good comment for $2. What a difference a healthy Ryan Watts makes.
And Jade Barron, both those guys. I think Jade Barron he might be the best player on that defense when he's healthy in the game. Watts was very good, but boy, Jahdae Barron that dude just seems to make plays every single week when he's on the field. So, big key. Let's keep those guys healthy, and big difference in the secondary when both those guys are out there.
I thought it was one of Barron's best games of the season.
From the jump, yeah.
And from the jump. And, the thing is, Barron doesn't always get a lot of big plays. The stat sheet tonight won't say that he made a lot of big plays, but that tip pass that leads to the interception, that's a big play. And you won't necessarily – it's not going to show up in the final stats when you look at defensive stats. He doesn't get an interception. It's not a fourth.
Did he get a PBU on that? I guess he does because he had one pass breakup. Would that have been that play?
Well, it's weird. Sometimes they call the tip passes different than a pass breakup. I mean, it can't really be a pass breakup because it was intercepted, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe he had a different play that was considered a pass
breakup. If
breakup.
You broke up a pass and it was caught for a touchdown, do you get a pass breakup?
No, not in that, but
I mean, if I saw a play earlier today where a guy breaks up the pass and it shot up into the air and a guy caught it in the end zone.
No, that should not be.
Because that guy would say, I broke that pass up, and yet it did get caught for a touchdown.
He did finish with 6 tackles, which was, fourth on the team, 2 tackles for loss. I mean, yeah, good day for Jahdae today. His ability – I tell you what, man, you run like a wide receiver screen or a little swing pass out on his side of the field, you're asking for trouble if you're on offense. I mean, he just sniffs those out like, what was it, like the first play of the game? I think it was. Yeah, first play of the game where he had that tackle for loss on that little swing out to his side of the field. Like, according to Sark, he just does such a good job of studying film. And, boy, his ability to recognize those types of plays is second to none. I mean, he's incredible. But, I thought Jalen Ford was productive with 11. Tavondre Sweat, I thought, had a really good game. He had 7.
He was great. He really was.
1.5 tackles for sack. I thought Anthony Hill showed up well today. Taff obviously with the big interception. Well, I was really hoping that Taff could get that ball in the end zone. I would have been happy for him to get that ball in the end zone. But
that may be the best chance he ever has.
Maybe, yeah.
At a big
go down to Barron Sorrell gets a sack. Was first one since Wyoming, only second one of the year. So there were a lot of good defensive performances today, and we can nitpick the offense if we want, yeah, but let's not lose sight of the fact that the defense played pretty well. I get it; it's a pretty crappy BYU offense. They're not gonna scare anybody too much, but you hold them to 6 points, 2 field goals. You kind of clamp down when they do get inside the red zone. So good performance overall by the defense. Maybe people are a little too focused, I think, on Malik and the offense. You can't lose sight of the fact that the defense certainly put on a winning performance. If the defense can play close to that level next week, that'll take a big burden off of Malik Murphy's shoulders next week for sure.
Joel jumps into the super chat. For me, I was okay going for it on the 4th down goal line plays. We need as many live practice snaps as possible.
That's a fair argument. I mean, they do need some live reps to try to get it figured out, but it just gets more and more.
You can't fix it in practice. It's like you can't have a great week of practice and then it's got to be in the games. They got to work their way through in games who they're going to be. Practice is just a very small piece of it all. Jay Harvin says, Tap getting lots of playing time and playing well. I just wrote that down, that one of the highlights of the 4th quarter was both he and Justice Finkley flashing late in the game. Good to see those guys have those moments.
I had that in my notes on Finkley. I didn't write on Tap, but he did play well in the 4th quarter. But Finkley seems to kind of be finding that light switch a little bit, right? Like, I don't think he put up big numbers. He had 5 tackles in the game. Okay. Only 1 solo, but he had that sack, the strip sack. So another quarterback hurry. So, yeah, I mean, Finkley seems to be, a lot of people were questioning him after kind of the slow start. We thought he might come in as a true freshman and make a big impact, right? Well, he kind of had a slow start, but he seems to be kind of finding his groove, finding his role a little bit. So that's a good development for Texas because they're going to need more out of him in these last, 4 games? So what they got left? I'm losing count already. So 4 games in the regular season, I guess. Yeah.
It wasn't all Xavier Worthy's fault today, but if we're looking at a negative, Xavier can catch the ball better than he did today. I have a hard time knowing which passes, if any, are like true drops because they're behind him. I think one ball might have been tipped. It was really hard to tell on the angle. There was one that it looked like the ball got tipped and it caused him to like have to slow down his momentum and try to catch it behind him. But Xavier Worthy is regarded as the best receiver on the team, and I thought they game planned for him. He needed to help his young quarterback. I bet Xavier Worthy would tell you he feels like he should have caught a few of those balls that he didn't catch.
There was one on third down, and Malik did a good job. He kind of threw it away from him, but that's what you're supposed to do there. And he had to kind of dive for it, but it's still a catch he should have made, I thought. He drops that. That was the first drive of the third quarter. He had the one in the end zone, right, that it looked like he had a good chance to catch. So
hit him in that one hit him in the chest. That one, for me, was an absolute drop. It's weird. I joked in the deal. It may be that like just a couple of times a season he gets like the pass catching flu. Because today, I thought today was Xavier Worthy's worst game of the season from a receiving standpoint. Obviously, the punt return was arguably the biggest play of the entire game. But Xavier Worthy can play better. And I'm an Xavier Worthy apologist, but there were plays today that he could absolutely improve. Lift your young quarterback up. Like, that's the bottom line. When you're playing with a young quarterback and making his first start, you're going to have some passes that get thrown behind you or arrive a little low. A first-round draft pick level receiver should make those plays. Cotton says, I'm confused. We won. I feel better about our overall performance. We/Malik needed this before next week. Let's beat K-State. Yeah.
Yeah, fair assessment. I think you said it earlier, Catch. Like, this is almost a better performance than if Malik, or a better outcome than if Malik had come out and thrown for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns. Then you get a little overconfident, and maybe now Malik realizes, hey, there's still a lot of meat left on the bone, a lot of room for improvement. They found out maybe a couple things he does well, a couple things that he doesn't do well. They can kind of factor that into the game plan for next week. So I think this is a good first game performance. I think it kind of unfolded pretty well for Texas. He had that mistake early with the interception that he had to kind of, settle down and kind of battle back from, and he did. And he made some good plays after that, made some good throws, good reads. So, I think it was a good overall performance. I think Cotton said Malik needed this before next week. I would tend to agree with that. Now, is he going to have to play better against K-State? Yeah, probably so. That's a K-State team that seems to have it rolling right now. But I think this was a good building block performance for Malik Murphy that he should be able to improve on.
Let's see if we have any other super chats. No, we're completely Javier says, fair point. What did I do? I think Blake, were you hitting on some buttons? I don't know. Multiple of us were. A 30-point pummeling with Vince looks completely different than a 30-point pummeling with Malik. Well,
you're a lot more sexy when Vince is out there for sure. Yeah.
The defense was dominant today. That's how it ends up being a 30-point blowout. The offense was just okay today. The passing game was just okay. Look at the receiving numbers as an indicator of that. Your leading receivers in terms of receptions, Worthy had 4, Sanders had 4, Sanders had 37 yards, Worthy had 27. Adonai Mitchell had 3 for 59 and 2 touchdowns, one of them being the long touchdown. He has the best day. No Jordan Whittington. John Tate Cook got in for a couple of plays, but still another. I guess we all just need to.
Did Whittington have a target?
No.
Listen, I don't like saying this, but I took the less on him in our Prize Picks deal. And that's like found money. I mean, I hate it for Jordan, but he's just a non-factor.
I thought Jordan Whittington might be an underneath safety valve that we would see more of playing out of the slot. And the truth of the matter is the team played a lot of 12 personnel today, and the 2 receivers that they play when they're in 12 personnel are Worthy and Mitchell. Mm-hmm. And when they went to 3 wide receivers today, Jordan Whittington just wasn't involved. He wasn't a factor in the field. What's that?
I saw Jonte on the field several times too. I didn't pay attention to see if that meant Jordan was not on the field, but I wonder.
Oh, when he was on the field today, Jordan definitely wasn't on the field. Jordan, I thought, got less playing time today than we've seen at any point this season. And
listen, I mean, he's got to make that block on that fourth down pass. He just didn't have a good day overall. I mean, the thing you count on him the most, okay, if you're not making catches, you know you're going to get max effort out of Whittington. He's going to be a good leader for you. He's going to block his ass off. He did not make that block on that fourth down pass to JT Sanders, a 4th and goal one. You know, that he probably walks in the end zone if Whittington makes his block on that. So better days for Jay Witt. But in terms of his passing relevance to this offense, he's just kind of become a non-factor. I mean, I hate to say it, and I'm going a little bit down a rabbit hole, but I was thinking about it watching this game. I was like, last year when he announced he was coming back, it was like, oh, is he going to go pro or come back? And I'm like, I don't know that he has NFL options at this point, unless he's maybe a special teams type guy. So, you know, it hasn't been the kind of year I think that we expected or Jordan Whittington wanted, Oklahoma game notwithstanding. But, you know, I just don't know that you can count on him to be a big factor every week. Certainly.
Well, I've been saying, I was saying 4 weeks ago, that Texas needs an upgrade in what they're getting out of the slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
As it currently stands, they don't really have a slot receiver. They're playing with this has turned into a little bit like last year's offense, in that at the wide receiver position, you're trying to get by on a couple of guys. Thank goodness you've got Jatavian Sanders, but there was a thought that and Jonathan Brooks has honestly replaced Jordan Whittington as the 4th receiving weapon.
Yeah, as you try to check down, your check down guy has become Jonathan Brooks. And, you know,
if I told you that, if I gave you Sanders, Worthy, and Mitchell, and then said, and oh, by the way, somebody caught 4 passes for 40 yards, you'd be, oh, Jordan Whittington. And it's like, no, actually, that's become Jonathan Brooks.
I took the more on Jonathan Brooks receiving yards and the less on Jordan Whittington. So that did not surprise me. That's
I haven't gotten a lot right. I was wrong. I cannot believe I took Bert Auburn in the more on the kicking points.
Well, you should be right, but you're right. But then when you factor in who the Sark's decision making, then you're going to kick yourself all night for that one. Yeah, that's
going to cost me about $100 because I also paired that with a number of different plays, including Prize Picks did a discount on Zion Williamson, and doesn't matter now what happens with that, because I paired that with Bert Auburn because I thought Sarkisian would be okay with a field goal, 1 or 2. I was really expecting 2 today. What? We're waiting for Anwar Richardson to join us here in the postgame show, the Loewy Law Firm postgame show. I should mention, if you get damaged, if somebody messes you up and you need to sue them, or a company, anything that you need, like a personal injury, you need someone to represent you. There we go, right there. Loewy Law Firm, the sponsor of the postgame show for basically a decade now. Thanks to the future mayor of Austin for always being a partner with us. We're waiting on Anwar Richardson. We've been going almost 40 minutes strong. Come on, Anwar. This love boat ain't gonna cruise all night.
They catch. I partnered Zion Williamson with CJ Baxter's more
on the receiving yards.
No, the rushing yards for CJ Baxter.
Oh,
and it looked great. Like the first quarter and a half, I was like, oh, he's going to nail that. But like, that just is shocking to me. I thought 38.5 was his total. The number says. I thought for sure, okay, kind of got it cooking a little bit last week. We know Sark loves him some CJ Baxter. They're going to play playing from ahead. That seems like a no-brainer. So you and I, neither one of us really give a shit about Zion Williamson at this point. But,
no, I've forgotten about Zion. I'm upset at Jordan Whittington. I'm telling you, not a good day, not a good Prize Picks day for me.
I did nail the Jonathan Brooks more receiving yards, and I've got him paired with Ollie Gordon. So I will be watching Oklahoma State closely.
Well, my problem is I did a lot of 6-pick Prize Picks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to end up just not doing well today. I'm going to end up although I've got a soccer play where I got a 6-pick soccer play and I'm 2 for 2 and I've got 4 going tomorrow, and I'm optimistic that I'll probably not even win any money back. I'll miss on everything. But as it stands, I'm highly optimistic that might be the thing that saves my weekend.
I'm not going to choose it, but I've got a 6-teamer that protected play, and 3 of them hit on Friday. So I've got 3 going tomorrow that I feel pretty good about. So we'll see. Maybe you and I'll both be celebrating.
The one that I flashed up in our Slack channel, the Malik Murphy, Lamar Jackson passing number, I wish I'd used that. I knew Malik Murphy wasn't going for like 225 plus today. And then that would leave Lamar needing to almost throw for 300 yards. I wished I'd used that one.
Hey, and I know we're getting off the rails here a bit on Prize Picks, but you got you did the right thing. You got to pay attention to those specials. They had one last night that I didn't see, and it was 4.5 was the number, and it was combined for bases for Garcia for the Rangers.
I used that one. I won like $60 last night using that one.
And it was paired with Luka
three-pointers, and he hit 9.
How did I not? I would have pounded that. You knew Luka's going to hit probably hit that number on his own. So that was crazy. That was a crazy one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had my eye on that one as well. What have we not talked about while we wait for Anwar? Like, what have we not? We talked about the quarterbacks. We talked about the running game, receivers.
The punt return early on was big. I mean, Sark mentioned on Monday, he goes, "Hey, I feel like we're close to popping a big one." So kudos to him and the staff there. They obviously knew what they were talking about there. I tell you what, Worthy, when he gets going upfield, I mean, you're not going to catch him. That was just too easy for him. But yeah, we haven't talked about OU Kansas much.
Well, the thing is, the Big 12 now is completely wide open. And you could make the case that Oklahoma losing today was really bad for Texas, because what Texas doesn't want to have happen is get into a tiebreaker situation later in the year and OU be part of it, because that's a bad one for them. And it's what makes next week's game life or death for Texas.
Do you think, and I don't know what everybody has left on their schedule, I don't have that in front of me, but do you think there's going to be 2 teams that finish with 1 loss? Are there 2 teams right now that are going to run the table the rest of the way? I'm not sure. I think you might have a 2-loss team in that Big 12 championship game.
Well, I agree. The problem is, if Texas ends up with a second loss, it could, let's say they lose next week against Kansas State. They don't play Oklahoma State, and they would have played Kansas State and Oklahoma, potentially 2 teams that they could be tied with at the end of the year. Next week's Bedlam game is crazy, because if Oklahoma State wins that, I think there's a good chance that the schedule's really light.
Yeah, they will walk. They'll go in with 1. They should go in with 1 loss if they win next week. So
next week, if you're Texas, you have to beat Kansas State, or it's like, even though you're tied with Oklahoma and Kansas State potentially with 2 losses, you're really a game behind them, because the first thing that will happen in a 3-way tiebreaker is they'll look at head-to-head between the 3 teams. Texas needs to beat Kansas State. It's not an elimination game, Jason, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
It is absolutely pretty close.
For the lack of kind of build-up and excitement for the BYU game, this game next week will be a huge game, and the crowd should be into it. We'll see what happens, but that's a really good K-State team. Yeah, I noticed today they didn't.
Best home game of the season, right?
Texas Tech. They got Texas Tech.
No, but I'm saying it's the best home game.
I think
the schedule this year.
Yeah, I would think so. Hey, they didn't use their 2 quarterback system that they've been using, I don't think, today. Kansas State did.
I don't know how much they used it. They were ahead by so much. You might be right. They may have used less of that. I know.
Like I saw at halftime, it was all Will Howard. No, Avery Johnson did come in the second half. But in the first half, it was all Will Howard. So, yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if just because he got a bunch of work in the second half of a game they blew out, it might not mean that he came in. So you may be right, but they definitely used less of it than they had in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Johnson wasn't as effective. He was 5 of 6 46 yards and a touchdown, but he normally runs the ball pretty well. Today it was 4 for -5. Will Howard actually 9 for 24 ran the ball, and he threw the ball effectively. I mean, it's just a typical Kansas State team, man. They don't shoot themselves in the foot. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They kind of do everything pretty well. They're not great at anything, but they do everything pretty well. So, Texas is going to have to play a clean game next week at home. But, I'll be curious to see
what channel is this USC game on? Is this a Pac-12 network game?
I think I saw FS1 maybe.
I got to find it. It's pissing me off. YouTube TV does piss me off from time to time.
It is on Pac-12. Yeah, the Pac-12 network.
Okay. Hell, I may not even get that on.
I got
9 different services, but YouTube TV is the hardest one to actually use.
What's up, Michael Penix? I took him in prize picks, and he's got 1 for 3 for 10 yards late in the first quarter. I thought he'd have a bounce back game after he.
So did I. Honestly, this may just end up being a devastatingly awful.
Yeah,
for me, and I just might need to swallow it and be like, you know what? Mom always said there'd be days like this, and it may be one of these
1 for 3
days.
for 10 yards with 2 minutes left in the first. Did you ever in your wildest imagination think you'd see that line from Michael Penix?
No.
Stanford are controlling the football because they've run 19 plays compared to 9 for Washington. Washington's run the ball 6 times, but OU Kansas. I was watching that game. Back and forth. OU had a big turnover there that kind of hit on a muffed punt. Well, that didn't actually affect them because Kansas ended up missing the field goal on that drive. But I'm not going to say I predicted that, but I'm not terribly surprised or terribly shocked. I mean, Oklahoma didn't play well last week, and that Kansas team, when they're on, and I get it, Jason Bean quarterback today, but Bean can have some pretty good games. So not too surprised that Kansas got them in Lawrence. And
this is the OU team that we thought would be in the Cotton Bowl. I mean, just like if you take the Alabama game away from the Texas schedule and you look at the rest of what they've done, you're like, I don't know how good they are. If you take the Oklahoma win over Texas and now look at the other 7 games that they played this season, there's a whole lot of, I don't know how good they are. And, they were deserving losers today at Kansas.
Kansas just ran the ball. I mean, Bean only threw for 218 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
No, it wasn't like Kansas played an A-level game. They were just better than Oklahoma today.
225 on the ground, though, 4 rushing touchdowns for Kansas. Dylan Gabriel, he ended up playing a little bit better, but he started off horribly. Had a pick 6, I think, to start the game, in fact. So, Oklahoma, they can be good when they're on, but they're not world beaters by any means, and they're very susceptible. You said Bedlam? Is that next week?
That is next week.
Okay.
Which I'm guessing Bedlam's got to be prime time. So my guess will be that Texas and Kansas State will be the 2:30 game.
I was hoping for 11 a.m. I got I shouldn't say stupid wedding, but a wedding I got to go to for.
Stupid wedding?
You know what? I was talking to my wife about it. In 21 years, this will be my first game that I've not covered. So it'll be weird for me. But
one of my best friends, Breadman, got married in 2005 on the day of the Texas OU game.
Oh.
And I was like, see you at the reception afterwards.
Yeah, dude.
I flew back that day to make the reception, but I try to tell people, don't get married during the football season. You're not getting me to show up.
I might try to pull that one off too and just be like, hey, I'm not going to go to the actual wedding, but I'll go to the reception. But need to figure out when the hell that game's going to be.
Oh, wait, where are the Oklahoma fans in the chat tonight? Feels like we've had Oklahoma fans in the chat all season long. Where are they at today? Hello? Oklahoma fans?
They're home licking their wounds. Yeah.
That. Oh, so let me ask you, Jason. We haven't had this conversation yet. If you're putting your top 10 together tomorrow, how are you ranking Texas, Alabama, and Oklahoma?
Well, usually the most recent loss has some effect of that. So I'm going Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma. Oklahoma has the most recent loss. They haven't played well the last couple weeks. Texas barely lost to Oklahoma. Texas beat Alabama fairly soundly. So to me, it's pretty easy. I would go Texas, Alabama, and then Oklahoma.
I bet you weren't saying that in 2008. Head to head in 2008 should have mattered.
Oh,
not right now, maybe not so much.
USC took the lead. Okay.
Well, it was 43-43 just a second ago. Well, they did just take the lead. Join us right now from DKR. Jason's about to get his pardon. Anwar Richardson joined us from DKR at the site of 35-6. So, Jason, do you want to leave?
Yeah.
I got nothing special for you, Jason. Head out.
Anwar, what I was about to say is we've already been going for like almost an hour.
Yeah.
It's going to be a shorter version of you and I. So I'm going to give you the floor. You say whatever Sark said, whatever we need to know. Give us your opening thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Catch it. I'm going to tell you this. I know you're going to be a little frustrated, but I think you're going to understand my reasoning why when I explain it to you.
Okay.
So once again, we're darn near at the end of the press conference. Nobody has asked about that red zone scoring issue, and no one's asked about being in the 5. And I have a column that I want to write for tomorrow, and it was either bail out everybody again or get my quote from my column. And for the first time in many years, I chose me. I'll be honest with you. I just chose me. I just said, I can't be I do it all the time. I have to always ask about injuries. I got to ask always about these other things. And I said, I can't, man. I can't. I said, it will go left unsaid. So he did address it a little earlier and saying he was frustrated with it. We don't have any details as relates to it. Just frustrated.
I'm good, man. Like, trust me, I've not been stressed out over whatever the hell Sark was going to say in the postgame about it is what it is. They're not good in the red zone. They're not, someone said earlier, maybe they don't have a red zone problem as much as they just have a short yardage problem. I mean, there's nothing that he could say that will impact how I think about where they are in that facet of the game. They're not good right now. They came into the game 113th in the country. I doubt that improved today. But look, they won by 29 points. It was a comfortable win. They were never in danger. There are some nitpicks and some things that we can talk about, red zones among them. But like at the end of the day, this win and move on to a bigger and more important game next weekend.
Yeah. And so we'll start with Malik. He said, for the most part, he thought he played kind of sound. But he did say there's certain things that Malik has to learn as far as like, hey, you're about to take a sack. Don't start throwing the ball, right? There's, so he said that, there's kind of a learning lesson within that, for him. But, overall, he felt fine with Malik's performance. I didn't think he went out of his way to say Malik did great, but I think he was good about just saying that he liked how he, overall how he played. And of course, during the win, he said, look, some of the things that happened that they were just kind of out of rhythm. He said he's going, but that's something he felt like they can clean up moving forward as far as getting everybody a little bit more comfortable. And so, he did say he felt like Malik had some composure, really good composure, especially after the turnovers happened. He was really proud of the way that, Malik responded and kind of hung in there as far as that was concerned. The thing that I did ask him, Catch, as relates to Malik, that I'm writing for tomorrow. So, to give you the teaser of it. And I think you can appreciate this, Catch. Now, here's a guy, when he commits to University of Texas, and he's the only guy that's in the class, it's basically at the midnight hour when Quinn Ewers shows up right before they go into the dead period. And he still doesn't, he still stays committed to Texas even after that thing happens. He's recovering from an injury. And then eventually there's a point where Arch Manning commits. And then Sark said, there's Malik has a good spring game. He goes, and guys are trying to recruit him and take him away from the program. And Sark was, by the way, when I asked the question, and the question was phrased like this: in the era of the transfer portal, what does it say about Malik that when Quinn commits, he stays? When Arch commits, he stays. Like, what does it say about him as a person? And his initial response was, I am so fired up that you're asking that question. Then he gets into the answer of it. And he really went on for probably the longest answer of anything in the press conference. He said, at the end of the day after the spring game, he said there was guys recruiting him. And he goes, it wasn't about NIL, as far as the reason why he stayed. And I think he started talking about a bigger picture of culture, but being really proud of him. It's not the first time we've seen something like this. Catch Roshan Johnson kind of comes to mind as well, as a guy that probably could have left. We've been there blinked twice. But he went really, really heavy into just talking about who Malik is, as a person, and then eventually how he basically got his opportunity today. And this was kind of an example of, resiliency and perseverance, which he felt like was kind of a reflection of his team overall. So I thought that was probably the biggest Malik stories. I can let you respond to that before we go a little bit further on into Sarkisian, because it wasn't like a whole lot of, as Catch, it's 35-6. You're not going to get like a whole bunch of like revelatory things that comes out of it, right? It's not like, discovered.
It's a boring game. It was. Styles make fights, and BYU was one of those fights where like one of the guys just didn't want to get knocked out and wasn't ever really going to go for it. So, sometimes that happens. BYU had no real interest in going toe-to-toe. They didn't want to really be competitive in the game. They really needed to take more chances in the passing game and open it up and put the ball in Slovis's hands. And
they didn't want to do that.
And I think the BYU coach was like, you know what? If we get out of here like 21-6, yes, I'm all right with that. Like, I'm not getting fired. Nobody's mad at me. If in the end it ends up being 35-6, but they're not good.
He's not that good either, by the way. I mean, it's quick. Here's a catch. This might be the craziest stat line I think I've seen in a while. Slovis goes 24. He has 39 attempts catch. He has 24 completions for only 197 yards. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 93.7 passer rating. 39 attempts, 24 completions for less than 200 yards. That you know how hard you have to try to be bad to do something like that?
I mean, he tried, but ultimately this game was the replacement of the spring scrimmage, right? It's been like, we saw, what do we think of Malik Murphy? And it's like, spring scrimmage. And no matter how much you try to say, well, like the spring scrimmage isn't that big of a deal. It's a practice. Let's see what he looks like in a game. It's the only visual sample size that people have had on Malik Murphy for the most part, period.
Yeah.
Now we've got a game, and now we can kind of start adjusting our thoughts on where we think Malik Murphy is based on how he actually played today. There was some good. There was some young quarterback bad. I don't know that his teammates picked him up a lot today and really helped him out. I don't know that I look at the red zone issues as a Malik Murphy problem. So like Malik Murphy starts today, and it almost feels like the Malik Murphy performance and the red zone performance are two totally different things. And partly because the red zone thing has existed way before Malik Murphy takes over. So it's hard to like look at Malik today and go, Malik, you're the problem in the red zone. Nobody really believes that.
Yeah, I would say so. So I think that those were kind of there. I think there's another thing that kind of comes out of today, Catch, and this is I think it was a smaller note. I just think the talk for anybody that may have about Arch Manning, you go ahead and put that to rest. Like there's, he was asked, Sarkisian was asked like why Arch didn't have, any snaps today. And he said, I just wanted to find a little bit more rhythm offensively. He said they just weren't in the flow that he would have liked. And so he goes, it was really about making sure they have enough rhythm with Malik in there. And he goes, that's why I'm always hesitant to say things like, this guy's going to play because then I get called a liar because I didn't put him in. So he goes, I just didn't feel like it was, the right time today. It says, hopefully in the future we can fix that. AKA they're invested in making sure Malik's successful and you're not going to see Arch. Like it will need to be a blowout, but any thoughts of,
or an injury
or injury. But any thoughts of, well, if Malik kind of, I think I had it in the war room that this leash was going to be long, right? And so, and I think people have to put the Arch conversation to bed right now. It's just not going to happen. He's going to redshirt. This is Malik's time. And when given it, if it was that close, Arch probably plays at some point today, but it wasn't. And so I think that's the other thing just to come out of it is until Quinn gets healthy, barring something catastrophic, Malik Murphy is your quarterback, for the foreseeable future. I just think that needed to be said as well.
Real quick, I know I should just let this go, but Miles hit me with the boring Catch. Quit watching. Any UT is good. I said that, Miles, because Texas scored once in a 40-minute game, like 40 minutes on the game clock. They went 40 minutes and scored one time. It was a little tedious at times. We can say that, right? We're in safe spaces. Love watching UT football. I love it more when it's not boring. It was a little boring at times. It was 21-6 in the fourth quarter. We were all kind of going – so don't get mad at me.
Miles, I think the problem with the game was that I think it didn't take long to realize that BYU has no chance in this game. Like even with Sarkisian messing around with the fourth down stuff towards the goal line, you still never felt like momentum's ever going to switch in BYU thing because you're like, not a good team. Like they're not like eventually UT will assert themselves the way to a win and get through it. And they did. So, and next week will probably be different, but this week it just kind of is what it is. He did talk a little bit about the defense, Catch.
They were great.
Yeah. He said, this is, he felt like the defensive line played well enough that it allowed them to do a lot of things on the back end. And so he was really happy with how, the defense played, how they showed up. I mean, Catch, when it's all said and done, they hold BYU to two third downs, completions on third downs, or two conversions rather on third down. So he was very happy with the defensive side of the ball, what they was able to do, of course, getting the turnovers as well. And so he felt like overall, they played a complete game. They got something from special teams with Xavier. They were able to get, the defense and the turnovers, and then of course be able to move the ball with Jonathan Brooks. And so overall, I think he just felt really good. He talked about like a complete game. He felt like overall they played a really good, complete game. And what is Kerry saying?
Glad OU gets to know how it feels to lose to KU. That may be my favorite super chat of the night.
What's funny? It's funny. By the way, that's beyond hilarious. I think it's classic. And it's just so funny, Catch. Because like OU literally was printing T-shirts and getting tattoos after the win against Texas. And I just felt like, man, you guys are doing too much right now. Like you might want to wait on this. But there's a dude right now with a horns down tattoo that's got an L to Kansas on right now. Like, what are you even thinking? Like, what was he even for when it was all said and done? So anyway, that part of it is fun. And knowing that we probably Catch the Stoopsifieds of the world and Bo, who are like OU fans probably won't be in the chat this upcoming week. I don't think we'll see them in the Specs chat line this week. Oh, there is Bo. There he is. All right, well, shoot.
Literally, he's agreeing with you. I won't be.
There's Bo. Speaking of, I don't think I'm going to see him this week. I don't think he's going to be happy. But he might be agreeing. He might be agreeing with the overall point that the celebration of the Texas win, as opposed to celebrating the Big 12 championship, was a little bit corny. And I think that's what Bo's talking about. I think he's more about that was whack. I think that's what Bo's saying.
Anwar, what grade would you give Malik Murphy today?
I maybe I'm going back and forth between a C and a C plus for him. I might lean towards a C plus for him, but the turnovers happen, right? So I've got to deduct a little bit, for the turnovers. Even though there's some things to it, it's not 100% on him. I mean, you got guys running into each other and knocking him around. So, but he throws for 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, 139 completion, 139 passer rating, completes 64% of his passes. Good. That'll get it done. But there's nothing that I would, probably C plus, but there's definitely room for the improvement for me to go into like the B range. I think C plus is fair. What about you?
Well, what do you think Sukamel said?
Oh my God, that's his guy. I mean, he loves Malik. So there's I don't know if he could have been as objective. I'm thinking Sukamel said A minus.
I think he said C minus, if I remember correctly.
Really? That's a shocker.
Now, what do you think I will give Malik today?
You always go against the grain. So you probably went B plus.
I actually think you're right. I think C plus is probably right. I was sitting at like a B minus earlier, but the thing is where I've a slightly that's like on the curve, right? Okay. That's like, hey, he made his first start and he didn't pee his pants, and I'm almost like, patronizing Malik to give him a B minus, because had that been Quinn today,
yeah, that would have been good.
People would have shouted. People would have been like, take Quinn out, put Malik in. Had he thrown such a bad interception and then fumbled the ball in the red. You know what I mean? Like I'm with you on a C plus for all. And I think this is the biggest reason if I was going to bump him up to a B minus, it would be because he had the really awful play, not the interception, although that one too, but to bounce back from the fumble and come down the field and throw a 30-yard touchdown pass late in the second quarter, I thought was a really good response. Like, it was a traumatic response from Malik. And he bailed his coach out of what was turning into some potential bad clock management, because they had the ball at the 30, clock was running, and I wasn't quite sure. They needed to get 7 points there, and I wondered, was this going to be one of these drives that ends with us asking about game management? And instead, he just threw the damn touchdown pass, and that is the best way to kill a game management question, is to take it away from the management. Just throw the touchdown pass. What was ironic about that touchdown pass was that he was a little late on the throw, and Mitchell was wide open for so long. Chad said, if you had taken a photo of the ball arriving just as the ball's arriving and you see where the DB's playing, you would have thought it was like the greatest throw of all time. In the end, it was a little late, but touchdown nonetheless. He was okay today. It was okay. And I think we're going to be able to have a realistic quarterback conversation going into next week.
When you say realistic quarterback conversation, what does that mean? You mean as far as his improvement?
Well, Chris is like, damn, catch is harsh. He did pretty well considering the mistakes was I being harsh? I thought I was just giving him like bonus points for his response.
I think it's I don't necessarily.
How do I give the same quarterback grade that Anwar gave him, and I'm the harsh one? He was okay. The thing is, people went into today thinking there were some people who went into today thinking we've upgraded at quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's not what he is yet. He's not better than Quinn Ewers. And the Texas coaches who see these guys in practice every day, they'd have told you that. And yet the expectations for a lot of people coming in were like, he's going to throw for like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. And it's going to be, a light show. And, it wasn't that. He, like Quinn Ewers a year ago, is going to need some time to play through ups and downs and peaks and valleys and, oh, no, don't make that throw. It was so good that he got the, oh, no, don't make that throw in today's game. Because today's game was never dangerous. BYU was a patsy. They're just trying to get out without getting blown out. So you can learn. Sark even said this cliche, maybe even this week, where it's like you'd rather learn lessons in a win versus a loss. Malik was able to learn some lessons today. And the hope is that when we say teams make their biggest jump in performance from week 1 to week 2, I think the hope will be that Malik Murphy can kind of do that. He's going to go from start 1 to start 2 next week. The level of competition is significantly better, but he'll have been better for having played this game. And I don't think anybody next week's going to think that he's going to have a Heisman level performance. Get out of next week with a win. That's the only thing that matters. There are no style points next week against Kansas State. Score 1 more point than they do and save your season. Because if you lose to Kansas State next week, it's not a death blow for the Big 12 championship game hopes, but it might be, because suddenly you would have 2 losses, and if you lose to K-State, you're 0-2 in the 3 teams you're competing against to get
Correct.
into the Big 12 championship game, and you don't play Oklahoma State, which means there's no tiebreaker that you can win. If you're in a 3-team tiebreaker, you're gone. If you're in a 2-team tiebreaker, you're gone. Next week is as big of a must-win game as any game we've seen on the schedule so far. And quite frankly, it's not too far away from being that for Oklahoma either. They go on the road at Oklahoma. It's the biggest week of the Big 12. Next week, the Big 12 will be the center of the college football world, and we really will have a better idea about who's probably going to play in the Big 12 championship game based on what happens in the 2 monster games next week.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think you're correct. I mean, what's your guess? You think Texas ends up being the late game next week?
No, Bedlam's the late game.
Bedlam's okay. So you think it's 2:30? You think it's at 2:30 or 11 o'clock next week?
I think it's going to be a 2:30 kick.
Okay, you're probably right. I was just looking. I don't think it's been posted anything yet. I haven't checked the Big 12. I'll check it right now.
I'd be shocked if Bedlam wasn't the primetime game.
It probably makes all the sense in the world, Catch, right? So you're right. So it does become a big game. It's a big week, like you said. OU is kind of, they use the, it was a hangover as an excuse versus when they were kind of dicking around versus UCF. And they get away with that because UCF calls one of the dumbest, 2-point conversions that are out there. And so they're able to get away with that. And like, all right, you're able to get away with that. But then this thing happens. So OU, you got to think to yourself, all right, you've been skating by. You did get the Texas victory. And that was definitely, can't take that away. Last 2 weeks have not been impressive. This thing happens to, Kansas. Like, to your point, like the Oklahoma States of the world are still out there, and they still got to finish out the rest of their schedule. To your point, Texas, Malik Murphy's job, he's got to keep this thing afloat until Quinn gets back. I mean, and to your point, I mean, Cash, it was some people on Twitter, at least one person I saw on Twitter, very early in the game was like Malik Murphy's QB1. Like, right, just it only took like 1 series or so. Like, that's my QB1. And then I was like, and then it just no, right? I don't think we're looking at this thing. And catch, you and I were getting questions this past week about like the Wally Pip, right?
Oh,
Is that going to happen with Quinn this week, right? Is he going to get Wally pipped this week, right?
Well, that's why I think this week we're going to be able to have like a realistic quarterback conversation.
Yeah.
Nobody this week is talking about Lou Gehrig and Wally Pip. They're just, I hope.
No, you can't talk, and you can't talk yourself into it. And catch, at the end of the day, you know, I think you look at it now, and you don't look at it like, well, Malik did so great, and Quinn could just take his time and come back whenever he wants to. If you're Sark, you're still like checking when as you normally would, but you're still like, hey man, any chances this thing can be sped up at all? Like, can he be back for Iowa State? Like, you know, sure. Could he be back for TCU? Sure could use him. Sure could use him anytime now. Like, can we get through K-State, and then can he be back for TCU? At worst, Iowa State, but you definitely need him going forward. So Tom G, I guess he's put two super chats in back to back. I guess
this was the second one. Did he say anything about injuries? It
Nope.
looked like Brooks was favoring an arm or a shoulder.
Got to get that on Monday, Tom G. I went for self today.
Brooks hurt his arm shoulder in the second quarter, and they went along the sideline and tested. You know, they did the strength test where they squeeze his hand or they make him squeeze their hand. But he came right back in the game and obviously finished out the game. I can't imagine that unless he's talking about Terrence Brooks. But Jonathan Brooks did hurt the arm shoulder early in the game and obviously came back in, played deep into the fourth quarter. I was kind of disappointed. So they let Jonathan Brooks come out sitting at 95 yards on one of the last drives of the game.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him one carry and he got to 98 and then they took him out. And it was like, you know what? That dude balled out for you guys today. Let that man get his 100-yard game. Those things, it's like an arbitrary number. But at the end of the year, when it's like Doak Walker Award time, they'll be like, how many 100-yard games did he have? And he won't. Anyway, I wanted Jonathan Brooks to get his 100 yards. I thought it was a little teasing. It was okay enough for him to be out there for one carry. You can't let him have one more, so that he can get to 100. Come on, Sark. Somebody needed to be there to tell Sark he's 2 yards away. Let him get his 100 yards. Instead, he put in Jaden Blue, and Jaden Blue looked better than his boo.
I mean, who you really think is telling Sark what to do during the game? Like, you think he listening to anybody, or you think he's just pretty much in his own head, thinking like, I'm in my zone?
He ain't listening to a goddamn person.
Not a one. Ain't a single person on offense that better say a damn thing to that man. Catch, there's one guy in the booth. That's Chris Jackson. You think Chris Jackson?
I'm just saying from a quality control standpoint, somebody could have been like bumped him. I'm not saying in the headset. I'm saying like John Bianco could have come over and been like, hey, not Bianco, but somebody could have been like, hey,
man,
2 more yards.
Their job, Catch. They ain't messing with Sark during the game, man. Like that to me sounds like a guy who's trying to get fired.
I feel like they would have done that in the NFL.
Yeah, but come on, man. There's no way.
Get your 100 yards. That's how you know he doesn't look at Brooks as like a real All-American. Because if he did, if that was Bijan, they'd have got Bijan 2 more yards.
There's only one person on that sideline that can interrupt his train of thought, and that's Jeff Banks. Everybody else better shut the hell up. Hey,
I was going to say L'Oreal.
Nah, she's not even. She's up there. There's only one person that can get into his whatever. When dude's out here, look, when dude, you see dude squatting, right? Catch, squatting, looking.
He ain't listening to nobody when he's in mid-squat. Ask yourself if you were in mid-squat of doing anything.
Correct.
Are you listening to anybody at that point? No.
Not a one. All right, Catch. I know you said we could do a shorter one. So you want to do some game balls and wrap it up?
Sure.
All right, who do you got? I'll let you go first.
I'll go Barron. I thought he was great tonight. I thought he was great early on. I thought that might have been his best game of the season. He's had some good games this season. The tip ball that gets intercepted early in the game was low key a really critical play in the game. So yeah, I'll go Barron right off the bat. All
right. Can I try this again? Because I tried it last week. You didn't want to hear it.
I'm here for it today.
And then here's the thing. Here's the beauty of it. The following day, you actually went back, and I think I don't know if it was in your column or not. I felt like in your column, you're like, okay, actually, on further review,
I did.
Yeah, you did.
I acknowledge you were right.
Can I try it again and get a better reaction from you? I'm gonna go Ryan Sanborn.
Hey, he averaged 59.5 yards per kick on his first 2 punts. His third punt was over 50 yards, and it dropped his average. So that's a good day.
Dude had a 64-yard punt, man.
I'm here for it.
I'm so like, this dude's pretty freaking good. Like when this guy gets the ball, I'm just fascinated to see how far he punts it. This hasn't been on his resume. As far as punt, like you do is punting like this, dude would have been in the NFL, not at Texas. So
exactly.
So the fact that this is what we're seeing now, yeah, man. Like I'm here for the Ryan Sanborn thing, man. Like Ryan Sanborn, he gets a game ball from me.
I'm thinking of mine. You know what? I'll give Jay Brooks a game ball.
Okay.
138 yards of offense. There were times when he picked up big. It felt like every catch he had moved the chains. He finishes with 6 yards per game, rushing, scores the touchdown. Well, it says a lot about Jonathan Brooks that we're at a point now where he can have 138 yards of offense.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like slightly disappointing. Although if he gets 2 more yards rushing, it's a great day, I think.
Yes.
It's weird how that 100 yards means so much. But I'll give Brooks, because I think if you're looking at offense,
mm-hmm.
I don't know who else you're giving a game. Maybe Adonai Mitchell, because he had 2 touchdowns on 3 catches. But I think Brooks was the best player on offense today.
I would absolutely agree. We're at the point where it is automatic with him now, and we're at the point now, Catch, where we're just like, dude, why don't you just hand it to Jonathan Brooks and stop all this other stuff, man? Like you just simplify it. And
every time they bring in Savion Red, are they better off just giving the ball to their best player? Like I get it. I know what they're doing, but you know what? That package isn't great. And it wasn't great.
Not passing out of it.
What's that?
Because he's not passing out of it.
I mean, why not run the Wildcat with Jonathan Brooks back there? I don't know. At the end of the day, it feels like they're making this thing too hard on themselves. Just keep giving the ball to Brooks. There's not a point this season where I felt like at the end of the game, it's like, oh, well, probably shouldn't have given the ball to Brooks so much. I've never thought that so far.
Not one time. All right, I'll give you my second one. Okay, I know we're doing 3. I'll give you my second one. I think you agree with this. T'Vondre Sweat.
It was awesome today.
I thought he looked like the guy that we haven't really seen over the past couple of weeks. Once again, looked unblockable. Once again, dominating. Once again, it was in the backfield, a lot. I thought T'Vondre Sweat he once again looked like a day 1 pick, at worst day 2. I just thought his performance.
I want him on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I think that's where we are with Sweat. Everybody here would take it, unless you think your team has got the first pick in the draft or something like that. Just in general, I think we all would be like, yeah, that dude could play on my NFL team. And I don't think that there aren't many guys on this Longhorn team that I absolutely think that about.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked me like a week ago or yesterday, there was a buy or sell question. Would I rather have Dak Prescott or Quinn Ewers as the quarterback for the Cowboys next year? And I was like, I hate to say it, man, but Dak.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but yeah, no. Yes, no, I totally agree. He was on my list of 2.
Okay. All right. Give me your second one.
Can I give you 2 honorable mentions? Because I don't know if you're going to mention them. And I'm tempted if there's another guy out there that was so good today that he has to get a game ball.
Okay.
But I want to give honorable mention to Justice Finkley,
Mm-hmm.
who is, it was late, but he's flashing a little bit. And I want to give an honorable mention to Michael Taft because that interception was a second in 2 weeks. And I don't even know how much he played today. I didn't notice him a whole lot today, but that was a big play. And that was a big play in the context of 21-6. And it was just, that sets up the touchdown in the fourth quarter. And, you know, the offense had not scored in more than 40 minutes. He got it back into the red zone. It was a big play. But Jalen Ford led the team with 11 tackles. I thought he was really good today. And I think there have been some games this year where Jalen Ford definitely hasn't been an All-American. There have been some games when he has been an All-American.
Mm-hmm.
I thought today was like, maybe not like today was first team all Big 12 good. So he's not the first defensive guy that I've mentioned. He's not the first defensive guy that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Right? Because I went with Barron and you went with Sweat. But he absolutely has to get a game ball. So Jalen Ford.
Cannot disagree with you on that one. You know, we've been kind of wondering what's been, you know, Jalen Ford after OU defense last week. You know, you're just like, man, what's going on? And I think he returned back to form, you know, to what we're kind of used to seeing, and easy to say, okay, those were the anomalies. This is all right. He's back, and this is who he is. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on the Jalen Ford love. Now I'm curious. Why don't you just finish it out? Give me your 2 honorable mentions. Give me your last 2 then, and I'll finish out mine.
I just gave you honorable mentions. You want more?
No. Oh, okay. So Jalen gives your game ball with Taft, and who was the other one?
And Finkley, and
Okay.
I'll actually kind of go like Finkley. I'm drawing a blank. You know, yeah. I could give an honorable mention to Maurice Blackwell, who is playing himself into a guy that's going to keep playing more and more.
Yeah.
And you know what? Anthony Hill was good today too. Like he's so good that we're starting to take him for granted because he didn't make a lot of big plays today, but 5 tackles, 4 solo, a tackle for loss, a pass breakup, and a quarterback hit. Like, you know, he's getting in the stat sheet a little bit everywhere. So those would be my guys.
Okay. The only other guy, and I've heard people saying some other ones, but I'm going to make it real easy. I'm going to go Kelvin Banks.
Okay.
I'm going to go with, when I look at the pressure that Malik faced. First of all, for the most part, he had a pretty clean pocket. You know, there was a couple of little things, but for the most part, he had a clean pocket. When things happened, it seemed to be on the right side of the line, whether it's Christian Jones kind of jumping off, or whether it was like that conundrum of a block, or, you know, with Jonathan Brooks. It seemed like on the right side, that's where that was. It seemed like on the left side, he did pretty good, you know, as far as that is concerned. So being able to give a young quarterback a very clean pocket, it will go unsung, but I'm gonna go off the, I'm gonna go Kelvin Banks. Is he'll get my game ball.
Tom says no X for the first career return touchdown that set the tone. Tom, everybody knows that I'm an Xavier Worthy apologist, but Xavier should have had a better game. There were 4 passes, and I said this multiple times, both in the watch along and earlier when Jason was on. There of the 4 passes that I think he got either his hands on or was in a position to make a catch, and he didn't. I don't know if they're officially drops because they weren't all great balls, but I think he would tell you he should have caught a couple of those. if you're going to be a first-round draft pick level wide receiver, you got to lift up your young quarterback. He flat out dropped the ball in the end zone on a touchdown pass. Like the ball in the end zone, it goes through his hands and hits the Texas on the shoulder pads. That was a drop. And when you look at the stats, Malik Murphy's lowest completion percentage to all of the receivers that he targeted today was to Xavier Worthy. 40% complete. He targeted Worthy 10 times. He caught 4, which means he averaged 7 yards a catch. That wasn't worth 10 targets. Today, he wasn't worth the volume, but if he picks up his receiver and it's just one of those days. On where I said, I think once or twice a season, Xavier has like a flu drop game where he is just the dropsies. And it hasn't been a problem really all season long. He has an elite catch rate. He hasn't really been dropping anything, but today he could have been better. That's why, Tom, he doesn't get a game ball. I can't speak for Anwar, but if you're asking me, that's why I didn't give I'd give Adonai Mitchell a game ball with the 2 touchdown receptions before I would give Xavier Worthy, because I'm judging him largely on how he did on offense. Mitchell had 4 targets. He caught 3 passes. 2 of them were touchdowns.
Ryan Sanborn was your special teams MVP today. So, I mean, it just is what it is. So, good play, but that's one play.
No, he was not Worthy's the special teams. Worthy's punt return is more important than those 3 punts.
I mean, it definitely helps for sure. But, I mean, it definitely helps. But
that's a 14-6 game in the 4th quarter without that punt return for a touchdown. It's a 1-score game.
Again, I mean, dude's punt was almost as long as Xavier's return.
But it doesn't count for points on the scoreboard.
It doesn't.
I'm okay with giving Sanborn a game ball, because the one thing Sanborn doesn't have to worry about is I'm grading Xavier Worthy on the totality of his performance.
Sure.
But the biggest, if we were given, we would disagree on this. If we were giving out a special teams MVP, I'd be giving it to Xavier Worthy. But if we were given an offensive LVP, I might give that to Xavier Worthy. So he was on the real extremes for me. Great with that punt return. Really not his best day. Today might have been, like, of all of the days in Xavier Worthy's career, and there have been people who've nitpicked him, I think today might have been the day that he did the least of what I might have expected from him. We have a couple of super chats, and we'll wrap up. Starks.
By the way, Friends star Matthew Perry dead at 54 after apparently drowning.
Oh, that's awful. And I do not want to go tell my wife that. She's a massive Friends fan. I will let her discover that on someone else's watch. Okay. Tippett says, Sark said we haven't played our best yet, and that's exciting. That sounds more concerning to me than exciting. Fair enough.
I mean, the thing is, Tex, what I would tell you is when you are pretty much done with most of the season, your team is who you are. I mean, there's not a lot of things that are going to change between now over the next, 4 games or so, where you're going to say to yourself, like, oh, wow, like, there's this other level. Like, for the most part, you are who you are, and it's just about fine-tuning and getting the best out of it. But this is the team that you pretty much, barring something dramatic, this is your Texas Longhorns.
Major asks, do I know what the ace formation is? Did you see it tonight? Well, it's a weird one. Did you see it tonight? Yes, I know what the ace formation is. You got one back. He's usually lined up like way behind the quarterback. I don't really remember it. There were a couple of formations. They put Savion Red into the game at one point and ran like a 3-back deal where they did some creative things on offense tonight. I don't remember the ace formation being a big piece of what they did tonight. But to be fair, I'm like watching the game, taking notes. It's a lot going on. Maybe I missed it.
I mean, maybe if he's talking about when like Byron Murphy comes in.
No, that wouldn't be the ace set. Like when they go jumbo or they bring in Murphy as a fullback, that's an ace formation is a one back set, and usually the back lines up quite a ways back from.
In the second, not as a halfback. So I mean fullback rather. Then I don't know. I would have to go back and watch. I don't know. Sounds like something that someone on the staff would send just to just to mess with us or something.
Well, I mean, it's like, yes, I know what an ace formation is, but B, I didn't really notice it in the game. If I'm not mistaken, like the thing about the ace formation, it's a one back set, and the running back, it's about the depth of the running back. So I don't remember, Malik in the here's what I don't remember. I don't remember Malik in the spread with Brooks significantly behind him. So I don't know. I'll go back and look for it. But to answer your question, yes, I know what it is. B, didn't really notice it. If it was there, okay. No, Tom, I don't think the ace formation is a three-back formation. I mean, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do a Google search, just a ace formation. And it says, what is ace formation? It's a single bat set, also known as the lone setback or single bat or ace formation or one back or solo. It is an offensive base formation in American football, which requires only one running back, usually a halfback, lined up about 5 yards behind the quarterback.
Isn't it basically 12 personnel?
Well, no, it's about the depth of the running back.
So, okay. I'm a 12 all right, so 12 personnel. I mean, I can line up in 12 personnel a couple of yards back.
Right, but the thing about the ace formation is typically the definition of it is, again, it says here, only one running back, usually lined up about 5 yards behind the quarterback. So I don't know. I don't remember Jonathan Brooks being 5 yards behind Malik Murphy much in the game today.
Usually that's not how they roll.
Anyway, I'm good, man. I'm done for the day.
I think we're good. Nah, well, I'll be back on Monday morning. It ain't like we have any shortage of shows.
No, exactly.
And you and I have Overreaction Monday on Monday as well.
Guys, hit that like button, subscribe, get notifications, do all that stuff that we normally ask you to do during the course of any show. Thank you to Adam Loewy for being the sponsor, the Loewy Law Firm. We've mentioned him numerous times during the show today. He's always great to us, and he is the future mayor of Austin. So go ahead, let him represent you so that one day when he's the mayor, you can be like, the mayor represented me in a case and won me a bunch of money. Anyway,
can I just say something in 15 seconds? You know what I find really fascinating about Bo with his boomer sumer comments? Like, where are you in life when you lose to Kansas and you're like, I'm going to talk trash in the Texas postgame show after they won a game? Like, I'm really like, aren't you supposed to be like somewhere like a little bit like
don't question it.
I like Bo. I know Bo. I have him memorized. I have him and Stoops and 5 memorized. I just am fascinated after a loss that kills your hopes for a national championship, after a loss that kind of puts you like a little bit more of a tide and puts you in a little bit more of a difficult place after everything you've seen. How are you like, man, let me toss some shit to these Texas fans, 'cause at least we beat them. Like, where are you?
By the way,
you got problems, man.
Cincinnati 7, Oklahoma State 7, still first quarter there. Just got to keep an eye on the Cowboys, considering how big that game is next week. All right. Guys, I'm done, man. We've been going for like an hour and 40 minutes. I got Major in here asking like, hey, man, did you notice any ace sets? And then, okay, it's time. Major, I'm glad you got that out of your system. For myself, for Anwar, for Jason, who was with us, for all of the great super chatters, Tom G, El Presidente was in here earlier. We absolutely appreciate it. Javier says, your hat sucks, Anwar, which is a really mean thing to say literally as we're going out the door. Javier, be nice. Why would you do that? Why would you say that?
It's okay. The ladies like it, so I don't really care what Javier
Don't
thinks.
you dare judge his drip. It's working for him.
The ladies like it, Javier. I ain't getting dressed for you, just so we're clear. My dress and my game is on for certain things. And by the way, if you want to say anything, check out these cufflinks. They are Texas, baby.
By the way, just another fragrance reviewer, which is a fantastic YouTube name. Just another fragrance reviewer.
He does fragrance reviews. He does colognes and
says the hat is fly. And on that note, nobody said anything about the lucky shirt. Come on, people. For myself, for Anwar, like I said, I already shouted out everybody. You guys have a great rest of the Saturday night.
Look, Linda said women like hats. Truth. Like Javier, this ain't for you, buddy.
Javier, hat. That may be the lesson of the postgame show. Go get you a fedora. By the way, thank you. My shirt, I don't know if I'd say it's dope, but thank you. I appreciate that. Guys, we'll see you on Monday. Anwar, bright at 8 o'clock. He'll be in a good mood. I'll join him at 9. We'll do the Monday overreactions. Who knows what we'll come up with. Obviously, get your horns
likes the hat. Look at all the ladies coming out saying now they like the hat, man. Look at this. I appreciate it.
Ladies, do you want to see some chest hair? I'll make it happen.
Oh, Jesus, I'm out.
We'll see you guys on Monday.